Welcome to Shamrock Channel. I hope you enjoy the stories I tell. On my birthday, I was involved in a car accident and was sent to the hospital covered in blood. I never expected to run into my girlfriend, who said she was going on a business trip. She was at the hospital with my first love, who was sick and receiving in 4. We looked at each other, and she was full of guilt and had no explanation. I nodded and said in a calm voice, "What a coincidence." Then I left first. The moment I turned away, I suddenly realized that she and I had reached the end. Oh, today's story is officially beginning. On my birthday, when I saw the message from Lily Johnson saying that she had to go on a business trip and could not be with me, I was momentarily surprised. I was surprised that Lily Johnson had missed our appointment. In fact, Lily Johnson didn't spend my birthday with me every year. I was with her for 7 years, and she only celebrated my birthday with me 3 times, and the first 2 times were during the period of being in love. When our relationship became stable and gradually became dull, she rarely paid attention to these so-called rituals. There were no gifts on holidays, she wasn't necessarily there for my birthday, and we spent the new year apart. She never mentioned going home with me, or taking me home. I had taken the initiative to mention a few times before that I wanted to bring her home to meet my parents, but she always put it off with various excuses. Over time, I understood and simply stopped mentioning it. This year, I didn't think at all that she would spend her birthday with me. She suddenly told me a few days ago that she had prepared a surprise for me on my birthday, and wanted to go to a mountain homestay in the suburbs with me to rest, and that the room and dinner had already been booked. When my good friend heard the news, he half-jokingly said, "Is he going to propose to her?" My first reaction was to deny it, knowing full well that it was impossible. I had proposed before, but she had rejected me, and I had long since noticed that there were problems in my relationship with Lily Johnson. Ever since her first love Jack Anderson returned from abroad, we had had nothing but arguments and cold wars. I had forgotten when we had last had sex. A breakup was probably just a matter of time, but just thinking about it made me feel a little reluctant. I glanced at the text message one last time. Lily Johnson said she had to go on a business trip at the last minute and couldn't spend my birthday with me, so she told me to go out with my buddies, and she sent me the booking information for the bed and breakfast and restaurant. I didn't want to reply, and I was about to turn off my phone when WeChat vibrated. Lily Johnson had transferred 5,000 yuan, with a note saying it was a birthday gift. After thinking about it, I decided to take the money, because this year I gave her a birthday present that costs more than that. A luxury bag that I bought with months of salary. I was going to give the tickets to my best friend and his girlfriend, but who knew they already had plans? I ended up going alone. I didn't expect to get in a car accident halfway there. Getting rear-ended hard. I got a big cut on my forehead and blood was all over my face. When I was rushed to the hospital, my clothes were covered in blood. I covered my forehead and hurried to the emergency department, when I ran into my girlfriend, who said she had to go on a sudden business trip in the infusion room. We bumped into each other face to face through the glass. I paused for a moment, and the blood ran into my eyes, blurring my vision. I blinked twice before I could see Lily Johnson's panicked face and the man leaning on her shoulder. Her first love, the boy next door, Jack Anderson. Perhaps it was the sight of my blood-covered face that was so shocking, but Jack Anderson sat up straight and looked surprised. But the next second, he turned his head and grabbed Lily Johnson, who was trying to walk away. I saw Lily Johnson stop in her tracks. When she looked down, her heart and eyes were full of Jack Anderson. No surprise there. I covered my forehead and continued walking. When I was about to reach the emergency department, Lily Johnson finally caught up with me. She looked at me with concern, her mouth open, and first asked me with concern what happened. I smiled and said, "It's just a minor bump. I'm not going to die." Lily Johnson took a step forward and tried to help me, but I avoided her. I calmly told her, "Don't worry about me, aren't you going on a business trip? Hurry up and go, don't be late." Lily Johnson's expression instantly became very interesting. I no longer wanted to look at her, so I turned around and left. My injuries were quite serious. I had a deep cut on my forehead that required 4 stitches, and I also had a number of bruises and other nasty bumps and bruises. While the doctor was treating my forehead wound, Lily Johnson stood next to me, concerned, asking how I was doing and what had happened. I didn't say a word. After the wound was treated, the family of the driver who rear-ended me also arrived at the hospital, apologizing and offering to pay for the medical bills. Lily Johnson realized it was a car accident only then. She suddenly pulled me, her face full of anxiety and fear, and asked me, "Why didn't you tell me that something so serious had happened?" I shook her hand off and said calmly, "Are you sure you want to argue with me in the hospital?" There were people all around us, including the family of the car owner, all of them looking at us. Lily Johnson felt guilty, but she still tried to grab my hand and said softly, "Then I'll accompany you for the examination." This time I didn't try to break free, but pointed my chin forward. Jack Anderson was standing across from me, holding an IV bag, pale and weak, looking at Lily Johnson with a hopeful expression. "Someone's looking for you," I said. And then I shook off Lily Johnson's hand again. "Henry Smith." Lily Johnson chased after me for a few steps, but when she saw Jack Anderson standing nearby, her pace quickly slowed. In the end, Lily Johnson didn't accompany me to the hospital. I was naturally helpless and angry as I faced the tedious process alone, but more than anything I was sober. I began to think clearly about my relationship with Lily Johnson. We had been together for 7 years, and she had never mentioned getting married or having children. When I asked her about it, she would either say she wasn't ready, or that her career was at a critical juncture and we should talk about it later. At the time I loved her and understood her. No matter how hard it was, I was willing to accept it, rather than doubting her and questioning her. But now, when I think back, I'm afraid the real reason Lily Johnson didn't want to marry me is that she couldn't forget her first love. In her heart, Jack Anderson is the most important person. I had a long checkup at the hospital, but Lily Johnson never came to see me once. You can see that in her heart. It is obvious who is more important. My good friend Tom Wilson, on the other hand, quickly rushed over, accompanying me up and down the hospital. In the end, he was worried about leaving me alone at home, so he picked me up and took me to his place, where his girlfriend even helped make a nourishing soup. "You really had a rough birthday," my best friend sighed. "We should go burn some incense in a couple of days. It's just too unlucky." I was about to respond when my phone rang. It was Lily Johnson. "Henry Smith, why aren't you home? Are you still in the hospital?" I rubbed my aching forehead and said indifferently, "What do you want?" Lily Johnson sounded puzzled. "Henry Smith, what's with the tone? I'm your girlfriend, shouldn't I call to check on you?" I sneered, "Really? When I was alone at the hospital today, I thought I didn't even have a girlfriend." Lily Johnson was embarrassed and remained silent for a long time before softly explaining, "Jack suddenly got acute gastroenteritis and a fever of 39 degrees. The situation is very serious. He is alone in the country with no relatives or friends around. I'm afraid something has happened to him, so I went over to take care of him for a while." Lily Johnson had said this countless times over the past 2 years. Jack Anderson returned to China 2 years ago. When he first came back, Lily Johnson's words were somewhat believable. But it's been 2 years, and surely Jack Anderson has made at least one acquaintance in Nanchang. And Nanchang is the place where he grew up, so even if his parents have emigrated, surely he has other relatives. It's all just an excuse. And I'm tired of arguing. I said, "Fine, then just go and concentrate on taking care of him." I hung up the phone. Tom Wilson heard me talking on the phone. He knew about the situation between Lily Johnson and me. First, he gave Lily Johnson a good scolding for me, and then he asked me, "She will definitely come looking for me later. Will you go back with her?" I thought for a while and said calmly, "If I go back, it'll be the weekend tomorrow. You should spend some time with your girlfriend." My friend scratched his head a little embarrassedly. He and his girlfriend were in different cities, and his girlfriend had taken leave from work this week to come and be with him. "If you don't want to go back, you can stay at my place. I'll take her out to play, and I can even cook you dinner sometime." My friend was very righteous. I shook my head and made up my mind not to disturb them. But things didn't go as planned, and Lily Johnson didn't come to see me. My phone vibrated, a message from Jack Anderson. "Henry Smith, I'm sorry about today. I really wasn't feeling well. That's why I asked Lily to stay with me." He sounded a bit like the green tea character on TV. I could tell at a glance. What he meant was that Lily Johnson was now at his house with him. Jack Anderson. Henry Smith, I heard you had a car accident. I was shocked to see you covered in blood. How are you feeling now? I suddenly understood. Jack Anderson was here to show off. I had a car accident and was covered in blood, but Lily Johnson still chose to stay by Jack Anderson's side. I lowered my eyes and typed slowly. What is Lily Johnson doing now? She's making soup in the kitchen. I have acute gastroenteritis and can only eat something light. Henry Smith, you lost a lot of blood today, so you must need to recuperate as well. Is there anything you want to eat? I'll have Lily make it together and bring it to you tomorrow. Look at the tone of this guest in the master's bedroom. If you didn't know any better, you'd think he was Lily Johnson's boyfriend. Instead of replying, I took a screenshot of our conversation and sent it to Lily Johnson. It took a long time for Lily Johnson to reply, full of guilt and haste. Henry Smith, you should stop chatting with Jack. He's not very good at talking, but he really doesn't mean anything by it. I replied, I think he's quite good at talking, and he'd be good at being a stay-at-home husband. Your parents should be very happy with him, so why don't you just marry him? Lily Johnson immediately replied, what are you talking about? You're my boyfriend, and I just think of Jack as a little brother. Then she immediately asked me, what kind of soup do you want tomorrow? I'll make it and bring it over. I stared at these words, feeling a sour, aching pain in my heart. Lily Johnson, you've never made soup for me. We have been together for 7 years, and I have done most of the housework. I didn't know how to cook at first, but I learned it slowly for Lily Johnson. In front of Lily Johnson, I have always looked like I can't cook. I thought that there should be someone in the family who knows how to cook, and since she is busy, I will take care of her slowly. Who knew that she could make soup too? The difference between love and not love is so obvious, but why did I keep pretending not to see it before? Lily Johnson called soon after, but I didn't answer, so I turned off my phone and went straight to bed. The next day I was awakened by the low sound of Tom Wilson's phone. He was standing on the balcony, talking very quietly to his girlfriend. According to the original plan, I would go to a homestay for the night, while my buddy would spend the weekend with his girlfriend. But the car accident disrupted the plan. My buddy probably couldn't bear to leave me alone at home while he coaxed his girlfriend. I supported my aching forehead and reluctantly got out of bed. I said to my friend, go keep your girlfriend company. I'll be back later. My friend didn't agree. He was really worried that something would happen to me alone, but I was very determined. I didn't want to trouble my friend too much, so after thinking about it, I summoned up the courage to call Lily Johnson and ask her to come pick me up. To give Lily Johnson a sense of security, we bought a car together and put her name on the title. She usually drove it. But what I didn't expect was that Jack Anderson answered the phone. He said in a contrite tone, Henry Smith, I'm really sorry, but Lily stayed up all night taking care of me. She has a fever and just took some medicine, so she's still sleeping. Even though I had seen through Lily Johnson, I couldn't help but get angry when I heard this. But there was nothing I could do, because I no longer had the mood to rush over there and argue with Lily Johnson and demand an explanation, as I had done before. I'm really tired of being tormented like this for 2 years. I asked Jack Anderson, have you ever wondered why, after 2 years, Lily Johnson still hasn't broken up with me and gone out with you? Jack Anderson's tone turned cold, but he was still hypocritical. I don't know what you're talking about. Lily and I are just like brother and sister. I treat her like a sister and she treats me like a brother. Henry Smith, don't use that kind of dirty mind to speculate about us. I let out a sneer and hung up the phone. In the end, I took a taxi back to the home I shared with Lily Johnson. It was the next morning when Lily Johnson returned. I was sitting on the sofa, working on something at work. It was a temporary assignment. When my leader asked in the group chat who was free to do this form, I volunteered. Because I didn't want to just sit around at home. Lily Johnson looked a little pale and weak. When she saw me, she immediately came over and affectionately called out, honey. I pushed her away, looked her up and down and asked with a smile, where's the soup you promised me? Lily Johnson's expression froze for a moment, and then she quickly said, I'll go out to buy some ingredients in a bit, and then I'll make you some soup to nourish your blood and vital energy. I couldn't help laughing. Nourish your blood and vital energy? It seems you've been making Jack Anderson this kind of soup a lot. Lily Johnson's expression froze completely, and her eyes were full of guilt. She looked at me and explained because Jack's body is so weak. His parents asked me to take good care of him. At that time I happened to need their family's help at work, so I made him soup. It was all for work. Listen, what a lofty statement. So I nodded and agreed, yes, after all, I can't help you at work, so you should go find Jack Anderson. Honey, Lily Johnson hugged my waist, her tone softening, as if we were in the heat of love, and she said coquettishly, can we stop talking about these unhappy things? I'm free these days, so you should take some time off work and let me take care of you at home. I continued to look at the computer, my tone still calm. No need, I'm very busy at work. If you're not busy, go on a business trip. I said the words business trip with a hint of sarcasm, because that was the excuse she used to skip my birthday. Lily Johnson sat up straight and looked at me with an unhappy expression. I knew she was angry at this point, because she had frequently given me a way out, but I had not followed her lead and gone down the easy way. Instead, I had kept giving her the cold shoulder. In the past, I had always pampered and indulged her, so she was not happy, but I didn't care. Lily Johnson sulked for half the day, and by the evening she had still made the soup, but she really couldn't cook, so she ordered takeaway. She called me to dinner in a cold voice, so I went. We sat facing each other, eating in silence. Lily Johnson's stew was in the middle, and she had prepared bowls in advance, but I didn't even look at it. Lily Johnson was holding back, and I could feel her air pressure getting lower and lower. Finally, she couldn't hold back anymore. You wanted soup, why didn't you even take a sip? I continued eating my meal at a leisurely pace and asked lightly, have you made this soup for Jack Anderson? Lily Johnson didn't say anything, which meant she had. Then I won't drink it. I don't want the same thing as Jack Anderson. You really are sulking, aren't you? Lily Johnson couldn't hold back any longer and started to lose her temper. Ever since you met Jack and me in the hospital, you've been acting really weird with me. Henry Smith, if you have a problem with something, can you just say it? If this had been in the past, I would have slammed the bowl down heavily and argued with Lily Johnson. But now I just gently put down the chopsticks, wiped my mouth with a tissue, and finally looked up at Lily Johnson calmly. Okay, then I'll be direct. I'm unhappy that you're getting too close to Jack Anderson. And then what? I looked at her mockingly. And then you will stop seeing Jack Anderson. Lily Johnson retorted, how many times do you want me to say it? I grew up with Jack, I treat him like a younger brother, and our parents are also good friends. I can't not see Jack Anderson. Can you stop messing around with this? I stood up, my eyes feeling a little sore. It was strange at this point, I still felt aggrieved. Fortunately, my expression remained calm. I looked at Lily Johnson and told her clearly, since you've said that, I'll really mess around for you. Lily Johnson, I'm going to give you two choices. Either break up with Jack Anderson or break up with me. After saying that, I turned around and slammed the door into the bedroom. I didn't see what Lily Johnson's expression was at that time, but I only knew that after a few seconds, she rushed from the living room and knocked on the bedroom door, loudly asking me, Henry Smith, what do you mean? Her voice was loud, full of anger and panic. Open the door and come out and explain to me what you really mean. You want to break up with me? Henry Smith, you want to break up with me? I leaned against the bedroom door. Suddenly, I felt a little dazed because I remembered the past. There were times when Lily Johnson and I had an argument over Jack Anderson. I really couldn't stand it when my girlfriend spent all day running around after another man, and then came home and accused me of being unreasonable, of having no empathy, of targeting Jack Anderson. The more she did this, the angrier I got. And I kept asking her what she meant and what her relationship with Jack Anderson was really like. Lily Johnson got annoyed by my nagging and would hide in the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I kept knocking on the door, relentlessly pursuing the matter. It was hysterical and ugly. Now the roles had suddenly switched, and Lily Johnson was the one making a scene. I felt both relieved and ridiculous. Lily Johnson knocked for a long time, and then finally quieted down. She sent me a message. Henry Smith, I think we should both calm down. Breaking up is no joke, and you shouldn't have mentioned it so casually. I didn't bother to reply. It was obvious that Lily Johnson wanted both. She didn't want to break up with me, But she also didn't want to give up Jack Anderson. But there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. I had wasted enough time on Lily Johnson. I didn't want to stay with her, but after spending 7 years with her, I felt a little reluctant to just let her go. I slowly walked to the bed, and suddenly a sense of confusion welled up in my heart. I knew that it was useless to feel reluctant, and that continuing would only waste my emotions and time. I just can't accept it. The next day, I got up as usual and prepared to go to work. As soon as I opened the bedroom door, I ran into Lily Johnson, who had just returned from outside. I froze for a moment, thinking that she had gone out again last night to look for Jack Anderson. Up so early? Lily Johnson spoke to me on her own initiative. She lifted the bag she was carrying. I went out to buy breakfast so it's still hot. I was very surprised. This was something I used to do a lot. Lily Johnson was committed to being a strong woman. She was very busy at work and often stayed up late working overtime. I would prepare breakfast in advance so that she could sleep a little longer. Sometimes I would make it myself and sometimes I would go out and buy it. She set the breakfast out as if our argument the night before had never happened. Have you washed up? Do you want to eat breakfast first? I didn't answer, and walked over to the dining table and sat down. The breakfast Lily Johnson had bought tasted just like that. Nothing special. Nothing that particularly touched me, and I even felt a little bored, because Lily Johnson kept talking to me, trying to liven up the atmosphere between us. I ate a little and then put down my chopsticks. I turned to go wash up. I grabbed my bag and was about to leave. Lily Johnson stopped me, full of surprise and concern. Are you going out to work? You just had an accident and lost so much blood. Aren't you going to rest for a few days? I don't want to stay at home. After saying that, I bypassed Lily Johnson and left straight away. Unexpectedly, Lily Johnson hurriedly chased after me. Then I'll take you to the office. I didn't want to waste time talking to her. If she wanted to give me a ride, that was fine with me, because it wasn't my time that was being wasted. In the car, Lily Johnson kept trying to find things to talk about, but I ignored her and kept looking out the window thinking about work. The company was planning to open a branch office in another city, and was going to send a few senior employees there. Although the salary and opportunities are better, most of the experienced employees are locals, and they are not sure if the branch can be opened, so not many people have actually signed up. I think I can give it a try, but it will be at least a month from now. Henry Smith, Lily Johnson called out to me somewhat bitterly. You must have been very tired before? When we were together, you were always the one looking for topics to talk about, and today it's my turn. I just realized that talking can also be so tiring and difficult. A bitter feeling welled up in my heart. Lily Johnson probably forgot that she had said something similar when we were in love. She said that she was slow to warm up and not good at socializing, and that she had always been busy with her studies and work, neglecting me, so that I was always the one making more sacrifices. When we talked, I was always the one to initiate the topic and do most of the talking. She said that it had been hard on me during that time, and that she would correct herself in the future. But the truth is that not only has she not corrected herself, she has also forgotten what she said. She obviously always knew how hard I worked and how much I gave, but she had long since become accustomed to receiving and enjoying, and simply couldn't see how tired I was. Now suddenly bringing it up again was just a means to coax me into continuing to give. When I arrived at the company, Lily Johnson said thoughtfully, "Wait for me after work. I'll pick you up." I wanted to see how far she would go, so I agreed. Lily Johnson was very happy, thinking that I was giving her an excuse to do something nice for me. She quickly added, "I'll book a nice restaurant and we'll have a nice meal, which will also be a belated birthday present for you." I still said, okay. When I got to the office, I went to see the manager first and told him that I wanted to go to the branch office. The manager happened to be in charge of the branch office, and he was very happy that I was willing to go there. The manager said a few heart-to-heart words to me. "Henry Smith, I've always thought you were a capable person, but you're just too unambitious. You don't want to take on the jobs that pay well and involve overtime, and you always take on the thankless jobs like training new employees." I laughed at myself inwardly. Yes, I always thought that Lily Johnson was very busy at work, and if I was busy too, we would have even less time together. so I always picked some leisurely work to do, as long as I didn't make any mistakes. I even rarely participated in company gatherings and other activities. I got along with everyone at the company, but I was like an outsider. If it wasn't for the fact that I was reliable and would take on new employees, the company would have probably terminated my contract a long time ago. It won't happen again, I told the manager solemnly. In the future, I will focus all of my energy on my work. The manager was happy and said, "Good. I'll see how you do when you go to the branch office." After leaving the office, I suddenly felt a long-lost passion and fighting spirit. It was as if suddenly there was a different kind of hope in my life, and it was hope that I could see and touch. What on earth had I been doing in the past, wasting my time and years on that trashy woman Lily Johnson? Perhaps the manager wanted to see if I had made up my mind, because that afternoon, he handed me an important task. I took a quick look and estimated that I would have to work overtime for half a month. I won't be able to go home on time today. When it was almost time to go home, I couldn't help but check my phone, thinking that Lily Johnson might send me a message. Finally, my phone vibrated, and Lily Johnson's message came. "Henry Smith, I'm really sorry, but I have a sudden emergency here, and I can't pick you up today. I'll call you a cab and you can take a cab home after work. Don't take public transportation, and you just had an accident, so you need to rest." This was a bright and considerate thing to say, but I really wanted to laugh. Instead of replying right away, I sent Jack Anderson a message. "Is Lily Johnson with you?" Jack Anderson, that green tea guy, immediately replied to me. "Henry Smith, I'm really sorry, but I had a bout of gastroenteritis and couldn't find a reliable friend nearby, so I contacted Lily. Don't get into a fight with Lily over this, it's all my fault." I took a screenshot of the message and sent it to Lily Johnson. Then I told him, "Don't promise what you can't deliver." Lily Johnson, "You really are getting on my nerves." Lily Johnson called right away, so I hung up and turned off my phone and started working overtime. I was busy until 9 p.m. I walked out of the office and was about to turn on my phone to hail a taxi when I suddenly caught a glimpse of Lily Johnson in the corner of my eye. "Henry Smith." She ran down from the car with a smile on her face. "I've come to pick you up." I glanced at her, not wanting to bother, but unexpectedly saw Jack Anderson in the passenger seat. I still walked over to Lily Johnson's car, wanting to see what else the unfaithful couple Jack Anderson and Lily Johnson could do. Jack Anderson in the passenger seat immediately got out and very understandingly told me, "Henry Smith, you're hurt, so you should sit in the passenger seat. I'll sit in the back." I gave him a cold glance and said, "No need, I don't want to sit in someone else's seat. I'm afraid I'll get hemorrhoids." Jack Anderson's face changed slightly, and immediately, pitifully, he turned his head to look at Lily Johnson, as if to say, "Look at him bullying me." But what I found was that Lily Johnson wasn't on his side this time, and instead, she glared at him. Jack Anderson's expression suddenly became even more aggrieved, his handsome face falling, looking pitiful and aggrieved. I just looked on coldly. In fact, to be fair, Jack Anderson is really handsome, belonging to the type of gentle puppy. When he was at university, he was famous for being a gentle, handsome guy with countless suitors, and Lily Johnson, who grew up with him, was one of them. Lily Johnson even confessed her love, but was rejected, on the grounds that they knew each other too well and were better suited as friends. But then I learned that the real reason was that Jack Anderson had dated a minor celebrity, and had dreams of entering the entertainment industry and becoming a star himself, so naturally he looked down on Lily Johnson, who had no celebrity aura. In the end, his dreams shattered, so he went abroad. After returning to China, he started to become an internet celebrity, taking the young puppy dog route, and his fan base was quite good, so he became somewhat famous. I was in the back seat, and for the first time I used an objective perspective to size up Lily Johnson and Jack Anderson. Handsome man, beautiful woman, they could be described as a perfect match. Jack Anderson handed me a cup of fruit tea after getting in the car, and said with a smile, "Brother Henry Smith, I brought you the recently popular avocado milk tea." I glanced at Lily Johnson and said indifferently, "Didn't she tell you that I don't eat avocados?" Jack Anderson looked at Lily Johnson helplessly. Lily Johnson's expression was stiff and embarrassed, and she squeezed the steering wheel and said, I forgot." In fact, she didn't know at all. Lily Johnson loves avocados, so I often make avocado sandwiches for her in the morning. I also told her that I don't like this stuff, but she never listens to me, so she doesn't know that I don't eat it. Jack Anderson smiled and said, "It's okay. I'll help Lily remember in the future." I laughed and said, "I realized today for the first time that you and Lily Johnson actually go well together." As soon as I said this, Lily Johnson's face suddenly changed, and she drove crookedly, almost hitting the curb. She hurriedly pulled over and turned to me and asked, "Henry Smith, what do you mean by that?" I looked calm and collected and said, "I didn't mean anything, I just felt like saying it." Lily Johnson stared at me with her eyes wide, her emotions fluctuating wildly, as if she cared deeply about my attitude, which I found very hard to understand. After all, her reaction was not like this when I was hysterical before. "Lily, Henry Smith," Jack Anderson said in a conciliatory tone, "don't fight because of me, it's not good. Henry Smith, Lily and I are really just ordinary friends. We've known each other since we were little, just childhood friends." I smiled and said, "Really?" Jack Anderson put on a face of innocent seriousness and said, "Really, Lily and I have nothing going on. In the past. Back then we were young and didn't know any better. Lily is not." "Stop it." Lily Johnson snapped at Jack Anderson, "You're just full of nonsense." Jack Anderson's face turned white. He was really aggrieved this time. It looked as if Lily Johnson was about to cry. I stared at Lily Johnson's reaction. Unsurprisingly, I saw regret and pain in her face. See, love or no love, it's so obvious you can't hide it. The three of us were supposed to have dinner together, but after the argument, Lily Johnson sent Jack Anderson home halfway there. After getting out of the car, Jack Anderson kept standing by the roadside, staring at Lily Johnson's car as it drove away. His slender figure and tailored suit made him look especially vulnerable in the night. I noticed that Lily Johnson kept looking at him through the rearview mirror, her fingers on the steering wheel tightening. "Are you worried?" I asked directly. "You should stop. You go to dinner. I'll go home first. I'm tired from working overtime today." "I'm not," Lily Johnson retorted immediately. I just. She didn't dare tell the truth, so I helped her out. "You're just worried, right?" "I understand." Lily Johnson didn't say anything, and we remained silent until we reached the restaurant. It wasn't until dinner was almost finished that she spoke. "I was wrong today. I shouldn't have agreed to pick you up in the first place and then changed my mind at the last minute." I smiled at her and asked, "If you had to do it all over again, would you leave Jack Anderson behind?" Lily Johnson opened her mouth, and I knew the answer as she hesitated for half a second. I took a sip of my juice and said in a light tone, "Lily Johnson, I have no expectations of you anymore, so no matter what outrageous thing you do, I won't be surprised." Lily Johnson's face suddenly turned pale. She opened her mouth and said after a long pause, "Are you that disappointed in me?" Perhaps it was the atmosphere in the restaurant, or perhaps it was just the right moment that made me have the patience to have a heart-to-heart talk. I said softly, "It's been 2 years, Lily Johnson, since Jack Anderson returned from abroad. Have I had a good day with you? No matter what, you always put Jack Anderson first. When he first returned to the country, the house had no friends and no one to take care of him, so he needed your care and help. I understand, but now he is only a few months younger than you. Is a grown man in his 20s really unable to take care of himself?" I looked at her and said, "Do you dare say that you really don't care about him at all?" Lily Johnson gave a very good answer this time. "I won't do that in the future. I will correct it. You're right, I did take care of him too much. He should be independent now." Hearing the latter half of her sentence, I burst out laughing. I leaned back in my seat, laughing so hard that my eyes were red. "You see, you still care about him so much, and you're always thinking about him." Lily Johnson's face turned white, and it took her a second to realize that she had said the wrong thing. She tried to explain, but I no longer wanted to hear. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and left. "You should really think about breaking up." Lily Johnson immediately came after me, grabbed my hand tightly and said urgently, "There's no room for consideration. Henry Smith, I won't break up with you. She gritted her teeth and said, "I love you." I looked at her with a smile, not feeling the slightest stir in my heart. What a surprise. This is the first time you've confessed your love to me. I've been with her for 7 years. I pursued her in the beginning, so I'm the one who confessed my love and the one who's given more. Lily Johnson has enjoyed my 7 years of devotion, but she hasn't even said she likes me. Now I'm breaking up with her, and she says she loves me. How ridiculous. I got up early the next day because I had too much work to do. When I arrived at the office, I got a message from Lily Johnson asking why I left so early, and saying she had brought me breakfast. I didn't reply and got stuck into the busy work. In the evening, Lily Johnson called me. I was on my way to a dinner with my manager and 2 colleagues who were going to the branch office. We were going to discuss a project together, and also the practicalities of going to the branch office, so I had no time for Lily Johnson and hung up. Lily Johnson immediately called a second time, a third time. She even called 7 or 8 times in a row. I could imagine Lily Johnson's angry and dissatisfied face at this moment. After being with her for 7 years, I had never hung up on her like that before. I had set her phone to a special ringtone, and in the past, whenever she called me, even if I was in a meeting, I would immediately send her a message to explain. Lily Johnson is very busy at work, and she rarely initiates contact with me unless it's necessary, so I really cherish it. Whenever she says she wants to go out to dinner with me, I'll do everything I can to put work aside. But now I won't. Finally, Lily Johnson stopped bombarding me with phone calls, and she messaged me, "Why didn't you answer the phone?" The tone of the text was full of questions. I didn't want to respond, but then I thought about the way Lily Johnson used to respond to my messages, so I replied with 2 words, "Busy." There was an instant silence on Lily Johnson's end. I guess she must have remembered the past, when I contacted her in a hurry and she impatiently replied to me, even though I had a fever of 39 degrees at the time. That was why I had never thought of calling Lily Johnson after the accident. I knew she was on a business trip, and that contacting her would only get me a reply of "I'm busy." I didn't think Lily Johnson would contact me again, at least not for a while, but unexpectedly, halfway through the dinner gathering, she sent me a message again. "I'm outside the restaurant where you're having dinner. Contact me when you're done, and I'll drive you home." I frowned, not feeling moved in the least, just uncomfortable. "How did you know I was having dinner? Were you monitoring my movements?" "No, I went to your company and asked your colleagues." Lily Johnson explained rather anxiously, "How could I possibly do something like monitor you? Henry Smith, don't get me wrong. I really want to repair our relationship now. I won't do anything to upset you again." I replied, "Then you go back by yourself. I don't need you to pick me up. You haven't picked me up before. And now you just remembered to do it as a show of face. Don't you feel hypocritical?" Probably because I had been drinking, my tone of reply was very rude. I thought back to the past. Although we bought the car together, she used it most of the time. Except for the first few days after buying the car, she never picked me up for work. She said it wasn't on her way and she would be late, and that it wasn't safe for her to pick me up at night. I understood. I'm a man, so I don't mind taking the bus or the subway. But then I realized that whenever Jack Anderson called her, no matter how late it was, she would go out. At this time, she was not afraid of being unsafe. Lily Johnson was quiet again. When I thought she must be angry this time, she replied to me, "I know I was terrible before, but I really want to change now. Henry Smith, give me a chance. I don't want to break up with you." I kept checking my phone, and my female colleague at the dinner party noticed. She came over to me and asked if my family was pressuring me to hurry home, and if I was in a hurry, I could leave first. Perhaps it was because she had been drinking, but she leaned in a little too close, almost resting her shoulder against mine as she spoke. I shook my head and turned off my phone. "No, it's a message from my ex-girlfriend." "Ah, in that case, if you really can't let go, you might as well give in sooner rather than later. Most of us women are pretty soft-hearted." My female colleague returned to her seat, tipsy, and gave me some advice. Everyone began to raise their glasses and clink them together. I don't know why, but today I really wanted to drink more. Maybe it was because, in Lily Johnson, I saw the way I used to be inconsiderate. The dinner ended and I was a little drunk. I forgot that I had just been in a car accident and lost a lot of blood. My tolerance for alcohol had decreased significantly. In the past, I could drink these cups without any problem, but today my legs were weak, and in the end, the manager and another female colleague had to help me out. Vaguely, I saw Lily Johnson come over with a cold expression on her face, and she reached out to pull me without any courtesy. The female colleague next to her reached out to hold her back. "You're Henry Smith's ex-girlfriend, right?" "To be honest, it's nothing." Lily Johnson's face was very ugly, and she fiercely slapped her female colleague's hand away. "None of your business, we haven't broken up yet." The female colleague was suddenly a little embarrassed, but fortunately the manager noticed something was wrong, and helped me say a few words. Then he asked me if I wanted to go with Lily Johnson. I nodded and let Lily Johnson support me. She put her arms around my waist and helped me into the passenger seat, but I resisted and stayed by the door. "I'm not sitting in the passenger seat. I don't want to get hemorrhoids." Lily Johnson's face turned even redder. After a few seconds she said, "I won't let Jack sit in the passenger seat anymore. This seat is reserved for you." "No need." I pushed her away and got into the back seat. The alcohol took effect quickly, and I soon fell asleep in a half-awake state. Lily Johnson seemed to say something to me, but I didn't hear it clearly, and I didn't bother to hear it. When we arrived home, I felt Lily Johnson undressing me, and I suddenly woke up. I looked at her coldly and said, "What do you want?" Lily Johnson was very angry, her face dark. I knew she must also be full of anger at this moment. "I'm giving you a bath. You smell really bad." Her breathing was a little short, and the way she looked at me had changed a little. We hadn't done it in a long time, and she must have wanted to. I didn't stop Lily Johnson's actions. After 7 years together, we were very familiar with each other's bodies. I didn't mind being naked in front of her, but I didn't want to do anything with her. I just wanted to make Lily Johnson unhappy. "Did you bathe Jack Anderson too?" Lily Johnson's movements suddenly stopped. I continued, "You lied to me and said you were on business trips so many times. Did you do it?" Lily Johnson glared at me. "In your eyes, am I really that bad?" The alcohol had completely worn off, and I looked at her with clear eyes. "Have you thought about it?" Lily Johnson's face changed slightly, and the answer came out. She had thought about it, but she just hadn't taken the step. As for whether it had actually happened or not, it no longer mattered. I rubbed my throbbing forehead, and suddenly I felt so tired. "Lily Johnson, I'm serious, let's break up." Lily Johnson suddenly hugged me. "I don't want to break up with you, Henry Smith. I really know I was wrong, and I will change in the future." Her voice was hoarse and painful. "I saw you acting intimately with another woman today. You have no idea how angry and jealous I was. I don't want you to get so close to other women. I just realized that you used to." She paused for a while before continuing, "When you used to watch Jack and you must have felt as bad as I did." I said calmly, "No, I used to love you very much, so I suffered 1,000 times more than you, but..." I pushed her away and looked her in the eyes and said, "But I don't love you anymore, Lily Johnson, I don't." That night, I packed my things and moved into a hotel. Lily Johnson kept trying to talk me out of it, and we even had a big fight. It was the first time I'd seen her so agitated, and she even threw the decorations on the entrance hall floor. For a moment, I thought she was going to throw my suitcase. But in the end she didn't. With red eyes she glared at me with a mixture of grievance and anger, asking me, "Can't we just try again? Give each other a chance. We've been together for 7 years." I shook my head. I walked out of the house I had lived in for many years. A few moments later, Lily Johnson chased after me, saying she wanted to see me off. My head was splitting and I was exhausted. I didn't want to argue with her in the neighborhood, so I agreed. After checking in, I collapsed and went to sleep. The next day, I was awakened by the alarm clock. I was still feeling dizzy, so I took a half day off. By noon, I finished packing and was leaving the house when I saw the door to the room across the hall open. I didn't pay it any mind, and just as I took my first few steps, I heard Lily Johnson's hurried voice behind me. "Henry Smith, are you going to the office? I'll give you a ride." I looked at her in surprise. "You didn't go back last night." "Well, I didn't feel comfortable leaving you alone at the hotel. From now on, I'll be right across the hall to keep you company until you calm down." I laughed and asked her, "Was it interesting?" Lily Johnson didn't want to talk about it with me, and just said she would take me to work. I felt it was very interesting, so I asked Lily Johnson, If I tell you now that I will go back with you if you promise never to speak to Jack Anderson again, will you do it? Lily Johnson's expression suddenly became very hesitant, but she immediately forced herself to hide that hesitation and said with difficulty, "We all know each other in the family, and we will get in touch sooner or later, but I can." I turned around and left, not wanting to hear a word of nonsense. Lily Johnson chased after me, still insisting on giving me a ride, but I hailed a cab and left. I took the morning off and worked late into the night at the office. When I left, I ran into Lily Johnson outside the office. She looked at me nervously and said, "Let me give you a ride to the hotel. It's late and you won't be able to hail a cab." I knew she had been waiting outside the office for a long time. At 6:00 p.m., she had messaged me, but at that time I had told her not to wait and that it was unnecessary because I had to work overtime. It's almost 10 o'clock now. I told her I had already called an online car service, and just then the car arrived. I got in without hesitation. On the way back to the hotel, I saw Lily Johnson's car following behind the whole time. For the next few days, Lily Johnson did the same thing. She stayed across from my room, waiting for me to leave in the morning, and came to the company to pick me up in the evening. Even if I ignored her, she never gave up. Occasionally, when I finished work early, she would knock on my room door and say that she had made me some soup. If I didn't open the door, she would just leave the soup outside and tell me to be sure to drink it and take care of myself. But I never took it once. A belated display of affection is more precious than grass. Now, no matter what Lily Johnson does, I'm not even slightly moved. I just think her current appearance is very ridiculous. It's like I used to be. The more Lily Johnson tries to ingratiate herself, the more I think about how I used to be, and the more I want to end my relationship with her. I want to completely break with the past. My busy work gradually came to an end, and it was time to go to the branch city. So I suddenly became idle. I slept until noon that day. After lunch, I opened the door to my hotel room, and was a little surprised to see that Lily Johnson's room door was also open. Lily Johnson is also very busy at work. My previous busy rhythm actually coincided with hers more or less, going out early and coming home late. She had previously picked up a lot of work in order to pick me up from work, and often worked overtime late into the night in private. I knew this because we had a mutual friend who worked in the same company as Lily Johnson. That friend contacted me when he knew that Lily Johnson and I had broken up, hoping that I could make up with Lily Johnson. After all, we had been together for 7 years. Especially recently, Lily Johnson has been working late on a big project. She probably won't have a whole morning free, but I don't really care about that right now. I'm free today, so I want to go back and take away the rest of my things. After all, I paid for them, so I can't just throw them away. I walked to her room and heard Lily Johnson's voice in the room, having a video conference. Seeing that she was busy, I turned to leave. Henry Smith. Lily Johnson had seen me and interrupted the meeting to come over hurriedly. "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" Her expression was urgent and full of anticipation, as if she thought I had finally come to my senses. I calmly told her, "I'm free today, I want to go to your place to get my things. If you're busy, just give me the key, I can take care of it myself." Lily Johnson's expression of anticipation instantly shattered, and at the same time, there was something strange about her expression that I couldn't read. She asked me sadly, "Do you have to separate from me?" I said indifferently, "Well, I've told you many times I don't love you anymore." Lily Johnson's eyes immediately turned red. She wanted to say something else, but the video conference was calling her back, so she quickly found an excuse. "I'm very busy today. Let's do it in a few days, okay? Let's talk about it in a few days." "But I'm leaving the day after tomorrow. I'm going to work at the branch office and I won't be back in Nanching anymore." Lily Johnson looked at me in shock. "You're leaving?" I didn't want to waste time with her and told her, "If you don't give me the key, I'll call a locksmith, but don't worry, I won't touch anything of yours." "No." Lily Johnson hurried over to stop me, and the strange expression on her face became even more obvious, as if she was guilty. "Can it wait a few days?" I shook off her hand and immediately saw it. "Lily Johnson, is there someone in your home that I shouldn't see?" Without thinking, I can guess that person is Jack Anderson. To be honest, I feel that this is really outrageous. She is pestering me and doesn't want to break up, while at the same time she is letting Jack Anderson hide his mistress in the house. Does she want to have it all? That's ridiculous. Lily Johnson obviously saw that I had already guessed, and immediately explained, it's because Jack has been harassed by a perverted fan these few days. That person squats outside his house every day, and he really has no choice but to come to me for help. I looked at him and laughed. Can't he just stay at a hotel? Lily Johnson wanted to argue, but in the end, she probably felt that her reason was not strong enough, and she fell silent. Forget it, I don't want those things, that's it. I went back to my room and closed the door. See, I knew it. She could not possibly stay away from Jack Anderson. This unfaithful couple would definitely be entangled for the rest of their lives. Less than 10 minutes later, Lily Johnson knocked on my room door, saying that she wanted to explain to me. But what is there to explain? She knows full well that she is at fault in all of this, and that she will never change. I don't know why Lily Johnson doesn't want to break up. Maybe she enjoyed the care I gave her for 7 years, and she doesn't want someone else to take care of her like that. Maybe she really has feelings for me, and regrets not wanting to be apart from me. No matter what, I don't care anymore. In the end, I didn't open the door. I originally planned to leave the day after, and didn't want to see Lily Johnson anymore, so I directly changed my flight to the evening, and then went to the company to complete all the procedures in advance. When I went to the hotel to check out and leave, I saw that Lily Johnson's room door was closed. I didn't care until I packed my luggage and opened the door again, when I noticed the door opposite, and Jack Anderson walked out from inside. His hair was wet, obviously just washed. Henry Smith, Jack Anderson smiled at me, and as he glanced at my suitcase, he pretended to know nothing and asked, "Are you going on a trip?" I didn't want to waste any more words with this green tea boy, so I dragged my suitcase and left. Jack Anderson followed me and got into the elevator. Here, he finally stopped pretending and asked me with a smile, "Are you really willing to break up with Lily? She's pretty and comes from a good family. You won't find someone with such good conditions next time." I really don't understand what Jack Anderson is thinking, so I asked directly, if I don't give way, do you have a chance to move up? Or do you just not respect yourself and like the feeling of being a mistress? Jack Anderson smiled, his face full of sickening innocence. "Henry Smith, you've misunderstood me. Lily and I are innocent, we're just friends, but Lily treats me better than you. Even if you are jealous, you don't have to speak so harshly." I laughed too. "So innocent that you couldn't wait for your boyfriend to leave before moving in? Jack Anderson, you are at least a celebrity on the internet, be careful of a fall. In the past 2 years, you and Lily Johnson have been involved in all sorts of things. Do you think I haven't kept any evidence?" His online persona is that of an innocent puppy, and if the things I have in my hands were to be exposed, his life as a celebrity would be over for sure. I just don't want to get implicated and become the talk of the internet. Jack Anderson's face turned cold as he threatened me. "Lily will be angry if you do this." I sneered, "Do you think I care about her now? Jack Anderson, if you want to be disrespectful, go do it in front of Lily Johnson, not in front of me. If you provoke me, be careful, I'll make you lose face." Jack Anderson glared at me in exasperation. "Henry Smith, don't go too far." The elevator door opened, and I dragged my suitcase and left straight away. Before the plane took off, I turned off my phone when Lily Johnson's phone call came through. I didn't answer, and she immediately sent a text message, one after the other, quickly and full of anxiety. "Henry Smith, are you really leaving? Please don't go, okay? I'm already at the airport. Come down and give me a chance to explain. I was sick today, that's why Jack came over to take care of me. In fact, I haven't seen him for a few days. Henry Smith, please come back. I really won't see Jack in private in the future. Please give me another chance." I looked at these messages coldly and directly deleted Lily Johnson's contact information. The plane took off and I left the city, saying goodbye to my past with Lily Johnson. I thought I would never see Lily Johnson again, but unexpectedly, just a week later, I saw a haggard-looking Lily Johnson in front of the branch office. She walked unsteadily up to me, lost and humble. "Henry Smith, I've come to find you." I pretended not to know her and walked past her. Lily Johnson immediately followed me, saying, "Do you want to start a new life in a different city? I can go with you." I'll apply to be transferred to your place, so that I won't be in contact with Jack Anderson in the future. We can start over. I didn't say anything, but Lily Johnson kept talking. Henry Smith, let's get married, okay? In the future, I'll give you everything. I'll do whatever you want, whatever you say. In the future, you'll be the only man in my life. Our 7 years of relationship, are you really going to be so heartless? I didn't say a word the whole time, as if I hadn't heard a word. I stopped a taxi to leave, and Lily Johnson tried to follow me, but I stopped her. I finally said my first words to her. Lady, I don't know you, and if you keep pestering me, I'll call the police. Lily Johnson looked at me with a hurt expression on her face. I slammed the car door shut and left without hesitation. But I didn't expect Lily Johnson to be so shameless. She rented a room and lived across from me. When I came home from work and ran into her, I felt sick. In the past, when Lily Johnson harassed me like this, I would still be touched, and it would make me think of the past I had with her. But now, when I saw her pestering me like this, all I felt was disgust and revulsion. So I called the police on the spot, saying that there was a female psycho stalking me. Lily Johnson didn't expect me to be so ruthless, and quickly grabbed the phone and hung up hastily. It turned out that she also knew that her actions were not consistent with the behavior of a normal person. She looked at me sadly and sadly, do you have to be so cruel? You've left me with no face to save. I just looked at her coldly. She took a few steps back and muttered, I know you must think I haven't done enough. I won't stalk you anymore, I won't bother you, I'll stay quietly near you, and I'll reappear when you need me. I told her that day will never come. Lily Johnson really seemed to have transferred her work to me. She lived across from me for half a month, leaving home as early as I did and returning home as late as I did. But she would never knock on my door again, nor would she block me at my company. She would just occasionally greet me with a smile when we met on the street. Occasionally, when she encountered something interesting, she would share it with me by texting me on her new phone number. But I rarely read them, and I never replied. After 3 months of busy work, I finally got used to the atmosphere and rhythm of my new company, and got along well with my new colleagues. The Labor Day holiday was approaching, and with 5 days off, my buddy and I made plans to go to Jiangnan to experience the poetic charm of the small bridges and flowing water. The day before the holiday, I received a call from Lily Johnson. Henry Smith, I booked a flight to Lijiang. Haven't you always wanted to go there? You go by yourself, I'm going to Suzhou with Zhao. I refused decisively. She informed me of this only the day before departure, so I don't know whether to say she cares about me or not. But this is a rare opportunity. It's hard to get tickets for long holidays. I had to ask several friends for help before I managed to get them. The next long holiday like this will be in November. I've already been there. What? When? Last May 1 St. There was a pause on the other side, and then suddenly she fell silent. I knew that she had obviously thought about that time as well. Last May 1st holiday, Lily Johnson and I camped out early and finally got the tickets. At that time I was so happy that I could have flown. I have always liked those quaint places, and whenever I visit one, I always feel an inexplicable sense of belonging. Lijiang Old Town has been a place I have wanted to go to ever since I graduated. Unfortunately, Lily Johnson was very busy at work and often had to work overtime. Several times before, our holiday schedules didn't match up. Last year, when she finally had some free time on May 1st, I was overjoyed and full of anticipation for the trip. For a whole week before the holiday, I was full of energy and a smile every day. Every free moment, I searched the internet for all kinds of tips, and even booked tickets for every little attraction we were going to visit. The night before we left, I slept with an expectant smile on the corner of my mouth. But the next morning, as we were getting ready to leave with our suitcases, Lily Johnson received a phone call from Jack Anderson. My heart sank. Sure enough, on the phone, Jack Anderson's voice was pitiful and dejected, saying that he had accidentally burned his foot while cooking and it was really painful. He asked Lily Johnson if she could take him to the hospital. Lily Johnson panicked at that moment, and without even asking me, she agreed without hesitation. I stood there, feeling my good mood from the past few days come to an end. I couldn't help but coldly ask, the plane is leaving in 2.5 hours. If you go take care of him now, are you not going to go to Lijiang with me? She looked apologetic. I'm sorry, Henry Smith, Jack got hurt, I had no choice. Next time I'll go with you. I was so angry that my heart felt heavy. Next time? I don't even know when it will be. We've been waiting for this trip for 3 years, and we finally have the time. Seeing how upset I was, she became impatient. Okay, I said I'll go with you next time. Will you stop being so unreasonable? Jack got hurt, but it wasn't on purpose. Is it more important for you to go on a trip than for him to get hurt? I was already upset, and when I heard her say that, I exploded. I'm being unreasonable? Jack Anderson only got a burn on his foot, not a disability. Can't he just take a taxi to the hospital? Or find a friend, or at the very least call an ambulance and I'll pay for it, okay? He knew we were going on a trip, but he still insisted on calling you over. Isn't that sabotaging us on purpose? That's enough, Henry Smith. Not everyone is as selfish as you. Her face fell. I don't want to argue with you. Jack is already weak-willed, and now he's hurt. He must be very helpless. I'll go over there to keep him company. She threw the suitcases over there and hurriedly left, leaving me alone. I stared blankly at the empty living room and the 2 suitcases. Afterwards, after enough blank staring, I looked at my travel information and took a taxi to the airport. Lily Johnson didn't send me any messages until I turned off my phone before boarding the plane. Along the way, I couldn't muster any interest, but when I really saw the scenery that could only be seen on my phone, I was shocked. The raging river, the steep canyon, the clear lake, the wide dam. Each one amazed me. The nighttime Lijiang was dreamlike and enchanting. In the sparklingly lit river, there were countless wishing lanterns carrying good wishes, drifting away with the water. At the moment the crowd made their wishes, the unpleasantness in my heart was also temporarily forgotten. At first, I wondered if Lily Johnson would come find me. Later, I was so immersed in the beautiful scenery that I didn't have time to think about it. On the way back, I was much calmer. Until I saw Jack Anderson's Facebook feed. 9 grid photos, all of Jack Anderson and Lily Johnson's travel selfies and photos in various backgrounds. In the center of the 9 grid photo is a photo of Jack Anderson resting on Lily Johnson's lap. Lily Johnson is wearing shorts showing off her long white legs, while Jack Anderson is lying on her lap, eyes closed, sound asleep. The caption to the photo reads, I hurt my foot and almost missed all this beauty, but thanks to Lily as my crutch, I was able to enjoy it all. I clicked on the photos one by one, recognizing that this was Moon Lake in the neighboring city. Previously, Lily Johnson had said she wanted to go there with me, but then we didn't go because we were arguing about Jack Anderson. Unexpectedly, she went with Jack Anderson instead. In those photos, Jack Anderson was either leaning on Lily Johnson's shoulder or resting his hand on her shoulder. There was not a trace of injury on his feet. The care he promised had turned into a trip together. And even though she knew I was angry, Lily Johnson didn't send me a single message until the end of the trip. That was the first time I had the thought of breaking up. After getting off the plane, I didn't go back to the house we had rented together, but went to my buddy Tom Wilson's place to stay. I didn't go home after work until I returned from vacation. Lily Johnson then sensed something was wrong, found Tom Wilson and used sweet words to coax me. At that time I still loved her, and I was easily softened by her sweet words. I quickly went along with the line she gave me. From beginning to end, she didn't know that I had gone to Lijiang alone, and thought I had been at Tom Wilson's house those few days. After all, it was a dampener and she didn't ask, so I didn't mention it again. In fact, there were not completely no traces. I have a habit of collecting paper tickets and bus tickets with stamps from every trip in a small box, and Lijiang's nature is included. I also told Lily Johnson that this is a footprint of our journey together. I put the box in the drawer of the bedside table. Unfortunately, Lily Johnson never looked at it once. After all, I didn't care enough. I'm sorry, I didn't know. So you've already been there, and I've missed so much without knowing. Damn it, you're right not to forgive me. Lily Johnson's voice was full of bitterness. Refund the ticket early, so that there will be less handling fees deducted. Or it's not a bad idea to go see it alone. After all, it wasn't easy to get the ticket. My heart didn't stir at all, and I even had the heart to help her reduce her losses. Tom Wilson and I had a great time in Jiangnan. We changed into Hanfu and admired the scenery of small bridges and flowing water, and we felt that even our moods had become much more peaceful. Tom Wilson said I looked great in the Hanfu like a young nobleman, and took a lot of photos of me. I selected some of them and posted them in my moments together with other photos, and Lily Johnson liked them all within seconds. We've posted quite a few moments in the past few days, and Lily Johnson has liked almost all of them within seconds. In the past, I would have been flattered because that's the kind of treatment we had when we were just dating. But now I just ignore it. When we got back, we ran into Lily Johnson at the airport, dragging her suitcase. She was very happy to see us and said, "I guessed you were on this flight, and sure enough I ran into you. Let me give you a ride home." "No thanks, we've already called a taxi," I said, waving my phone at her. Lily Johnson looked disappointed, and watched us get into the car. When we got back, her car was far behind us. Tom Wilson looked back several times, nudged me in the arm and said, "She's been following us. I just checked the flight from Lijiang to here. It arrives at 9 a.m. She's been waiting here for more than 3 hours, quite sincere. Don't you really want to consider getting back together with her?" I shook my head. I had long since let go. It was only at this time that she realized she couldn't let go, and it was too late. It was only 3 p.m. when I got home. I took a shower, lay on the bed and played with my phone. I didn't realize how tired I was, and fell asleep while playing. When I woke up, it was already dark. On my phone, there was a text message from 10 minutes ago. It was from Lily Johnson. She said she rang the doorbell but I didn't hear it, so she left my dinner outside the door. It was the duck blood vermicelli soup and pot bread I like, so she told me to remember to eat it. The duck blood vermicelli at that restaurant really suits my taste, and it's near the neighborhood where I was living at the time, so I basically went there every day and I could eat it over and over again. Later, Lily Johnson changed jobs, and we moved here together, so it wasn't convenient to go to that restaurant anymore. It took more than an hour to get there every time, and Lily Johnson didn't want to go with me because she found it troublesome, so I rarely went there alone. Unexpectedly, she remembered and bought it specially. However, perhaps it's been a long time since I last had it. I'm not that hungry anymore. I didn't touch that dinner. Since I've already decided to separate from Lily Johnson, I shouldn't have any more contact with her, and I shouldn't give her any hope. I hope she can understand too. Unexpectedly, when I left work the next evening, there was a bowl of warm duck blood vermicelli soup by the door again. This continued for several days. Every time I left or arrived at work, there was a bowl of some of my old favorite dishes by the door. I also received a text message from Lily Johnson. "Henry Smith, this time I was alone in Lijiang and walked through every place you walked. I realized how lonely it is to travel alone, and I understood your mood at that time, and even more so how much I had wronged you in the past. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I know you hate me right now, but I really can't live without you. Just the thought of living the rest of my life without your company makes me feel meaningless. I won't bother you, but I will silently stand by your side and be there for you the second you need me." I looked at the text message, not moved, just feeling a bit of a headache. I thought she would be unable to bear it and give up soon after seeing my indifferent attitude. Unexpectedly, she became even more determined. I could feel that she meant what she said. She really wanted to make up with me and make amends. But I knew very well that I no longer had any love for her. Facing her belated warmth and attentiveness, my heart no longer felt anything. After much thought, I finally decided to move out. If we were to break up, it was better to do so cleanly. I would not contact her, nor give her any hope. Before the lease expired, I put up a sublet ad online and looked for a new place. During that time, a few people asked about the house, but I never managed to settle on one. Just as I was thinking about whether I should just move out and lose the deposit, I discovered that there was no need to do so. Lily Johnson had moved out on her own initiative. At that time, the branch had completed its first major project, and the manager had organized a celebration dinner at a rather luxurious restaurant. Everyone sang and drank together, enjoying the relaxation after the busy work. I also drank some, but I didn't dare drink too much as I had to go to work the next day. When everyone left, I was surprised to see Lily Johnson. It seemed that her company had also gathered here, and they had also drunk a lot. Lily Johnson was drunk and playing with her phone in the lobby, surrounded by a few colleagues. I didn't want to run into Lily Johnson, so I went to the bathroom and waited for her to leave first. 10 minutes later, when I walked out again, Lily Johnson was still in the lobby, but she was so drunk that she had fallen asleep on the sofa. Her colleagues were nowhere to be seen, but 2 waitresses were standing around her, looking as if they were trying to call someone on her phone. I walked straight past the unconscious Lily Johnson, and I could vaguely hear her call out my name, but I didn't turn around. While waiting for a taxi by the roadside, a taxi with a passenger in it pulled up, and Jack Anderson hurriedly got out. When he saw me, he froze for a moment, looking at me warily, as if he was afraid that I had come to take something from him. I ignored him and hailed another cab to leave. Soon after I returned to the rental house, I heard some noisy voices in the hallway outside. It was Jack Anderson and Lily Johnson talking. It was very indistinct, and I didn't want to hear it. But the sound of a heavy door closing was very clear, as if it was meant for me to hear. The next day on my way to work, I remembered that I had forgotten some documents and hurried back to get them. I accidentally saw Lily Johnson carrying cardboard boxes. The door was open, so I looked inside. There were several cardboard boxes and suitcases in the empty living room, and Jack Anderson was putting something into them. Lily Johnson looked panicked at having been caught, her face pale with a kind of desperate stillness. Jack Anderson, on the other hand, looked at me with a smug grin on his face, as if he had won something. I raised the corners of my lips and said to Lily Johnson, with a frank and generous smile, "I wish you, unfaithful man and woman, a happy life together." Lily Johnson's face was full of despair. I turned to open the door, and just before entering the room, I heard Lily Johnson say, "But Henry Smith, you are and always will be the one I love." I closed the door without emotion. I felt only relief. Fortunately, I never once thought of going back. Fortunately, I didn't soften my resolve because of Lily Johnson's actions. Otherwise, what awaited me would only be another heart-wrenching hurt. It was more than half a year before I heard anything more about Lily Johnson. While I was on a business trip, I ran into a mutual friend of Lily Johnson and I. We used to be quite close, and we happened to be on the same flight, so we sat next to each other. We got to chatting. He told me that Lily Johnson and Jack Anderson got married less than 2 months after breaking up with me. They got married because Lily Johnson was pregnant. But the marriage was not a happy one. They fought a lot, so much so that the neighbors called the police. It is said that Lily Johnson could not forget about me, and Jack Anderson cared about this very much. My name would always come up during their arguments. Once Jack Anderson even came directly to the company. Lily Johnson deliberately avoided him at that time and stayed at the office every day, working overtime and not going home. Jack Anderson came to the company in a rage to catch her in the act. They mentioned me again during their argument, and Lily Johnson shouted, "I just love Henry Smith. I just can't forget about him." My friend said that everyone in the company heard this, and Jack Anderson's face turned green. He went crazy on the spot and revealed everything. He said that if I was the one he loved most, why did I have to be ambiguous with him in the first place? Why did I have to say that he was the best, and why did I put him first in everything? If you loved me the most, you shouldn't have gone to him in the first place, and you shouldn't have left me as soon as he called. Things like that. People at the company ate melons on the spot, and some people recorded a video and posted it online, which received a lot of attention. Jack Anderson was quickly recognized by his fans, his persona was shattered, and he was cursed at by countless fans and passers-by. His short video account lost 100,000 followers overnight, and every time it was refreshed, the number of followers decreased rapidly. Because of this video, Jack Anderson's career was completely ruined. During an argument, he deliberately revealed that he had drugged Lily Johnson to anger her. Lily Johnson was about to divorce Jack Anderson at the time, but Jack Anderson refused to agree and kept dragging Lily Johnson along with a cooling-off period. However, the baby Lily Johnson was carrying still aborted. It was pushed by Jack Anderson during an argument and fell, resulting in the miscarriage. After Jack Anderson discovered the blood under Lily Johnson, not only did he not call the police immediately, but he ran away in fear. Because of the delay in seeking medical treatment, Lily Johnson hurt her body and was diagnosed as being unlikely to conceive again. After Lily Johnson was discharged from the hospital, she demanded to sue Jack Anderson for drugging and intentionally injuring her, and personally sent Jack Anderson to jail. Because of these events, Lily Johnson was completely ruined, her spirit was destroyed, she didn't work hard, her position was lowered again and again, she was on the verge of being fired, and now she was completely down and out, but she was still being harassed by the Anderson family, who said that she had ruined their son. The two families were at each other's throats. My friend finally said, "I saw Lily Johnson the other day. She's so thin she's unrecognizable. The Anderson parents keep calling her, threatening her to leave their son alone. She's at the office, arguing with the Anderson parents on the phone. So much so that the general manager's face is turning black." My friend shook her head inside. Back then when you were with Lily Johnson, she was so full of spirit. We all thought that she would have a bright future, and a successful career and a happy family. Who could have imagined that she would end up like this? It's so important to have a good partner. Unfortunately, Lily Johnson got it wrong. After hearing this story, I just laughed and said, "You choose your own path." I have completely let go of the past. I don't care about Lily Johnson, whether she is doing well or not. At most, I feel a little sad for the deceased. The plane landed, and I walked forward with my suitcase in tow. The weather was nice and sunny. My future life will be the same. Lily Johnson's extra story. Perhaps every girl harbors an unforgettable first love in her heart. When I first fell in love, I fell for Jack Anderson. I thought we understood each other without saying a word, and that we were like two peas in a pod, made for each other. That's why I was so miserable and confused when he rejected me. That's when Henry Smith came into my life. Unlike the lively and cheerful Jack, he was gentle and introverted, and only when he was with me did he show a different side. He would silently sit outside the dance studio watching me dance, and during my break, hand me a bottle of water that was just the right temperature. When I was feeling unwell during my period, he would carefully prepare brown sugar water and porridge at the right temperature. He remembered what I liked to eat and what I didn't like, and would be the first to notice when I was depressed. How could I not be moved by such a man? We became boy and girl. At first, we had a very sweet and happy life. But I don't know when it started, but the number of times we fought increased. Every time Jack called me away, he got angry. He blamed me for getting so close to Jack and said he would get jealous. At first, I took this as our mutual flirtatiousness, and I tried to appease him patiently. Gradually, I just felt annoyed and simply adopted a cold attitude. Because every time he was the first to give in. I knew that no matter what, he would be fine as long as I appeased him. So I stopped worrying. I guess this is what it means to be the favored one. I always insisted that Jack Anderson and I were just childhood friends. I subconsciously didn't want to admit that a secret corner of my heart actually harbored my uniqueness for Jack. Henry Smith gave in again and again for my sake. Until one day, he refused to give in anymore and left me decisively. Only then did I realize how wrong I had been. Henry Smith's shadow is present in all my future life arrangements. I can't imagine living without him. Looking back, I realize that Jack Anderson's intentions were so obvious. He was deliberately trying to break up Henry Smith and me. Why didn't I realize that at the time? I regret it. I spent sleepless nights the days Henry Smith left the city. I never bothered to reply to Jack Anderson's messages. I blocked Jack Anderson's contact details, went to the city where Henry Smith's new company was located, and rented a house next to Henry Smith's. My heart ached the moment Henry Smith gave me that bored look, but I knew I deserved it. I wanted to make it up to him, win him back, and spend many more 7-year periods with him. Last time he was the one chasing me. This time it was my turn to win him back. I was sure he would come around, but I never imagined that everything would be ruined by a drunken mistake. Jack Anderson and we got drunk and made a mess of things. I knew the type of person Henry Smith was, and I understood that I was no longer qualified to win Henry Smith back. I was forever disqualified from being by Henry Smith's side. I moved away from him with a ghastly white face. When I realized that night was because Jack Anderson drugged me, I was actually despicably relieved. Unfortunately, I was still not worthy of being with such a good man as Henry Smith. Perhaps this was God's punishment for me. I let down a man who loved me with all his heart. So I was doomed to a bad end.